Alright, I'm going to go for the HTML samples that I have in the live preview. So if you go to your page styles.html page, you'll see a whole bunch of different styles, and I'm just going to cover them pretty briefly just to give you an idea of how to, replicate a lot of these examples. So if we go into our files and we open up the HTML files folder and we go to the page styles.html file, we can open that up. Once you've opened that up, we can scroll down to the content, and let's start off with the list styles. So the list styles are pretty easy. It's basically just adding a class of either checkmark or arrow to get the checkmark or arrow, and then the bottom two are just default unordered lists and ordered lists. So that's pretty easy. Then we get to our button, and our button works pretty similar way. All you need is a link and some text, and you just add this class of button-anchor, and you get the button. So if I remove that, you can see the basic HTML. It's just a link, and all you have to do is add that class, and you get yourself a fancy button when you refresh the page. So then we go to tabbed content, and so if we scroll down to our tabbed content, you'll see there's basically two groups of items. So you have an unordered list, and so these are the tab titles, and then you have some divs that are just referencing the tab content. So let's go ahead and add a tab just to show you. You can just copy and paste, and we'll call this tab example, and then we're going to want to set a unique ID, so we can do tab-example, and then we'll need to duplicate the div as well, and so we'll say new content here, and then since we are calling to the tab example ID, we'll need to make sure that our new div is that same ID, tab-example. And now if we refresh the page, you see a tab example, and if we click on it, you get the new content. So you can just easily adjust, add and remove tabs as you need. Then we've got toggles. Toggles work in a very similar way. You have an unordered list, and then you have a title, which we use example closed or open, and then the content that is either closed or open. And the only difference between the two is you can have this closed class or this progression_open class, and that's how you can keep the toggle open or closed as you need. Then under slider, I'm going to skip that, but you can just look over it as a great example of how easy it is to create a slider. You can just keep duplicating these on any pages. We'll cover this in the featured slider video. It's the same slider. And then the last thing to go over now is these columns. And the columns are very easy. It's a pretty easy naming convention. We have grid 2, grid 3 column, grid 4 column, etc. And the only things to pay attention is the last of the grid needs to get this extra class of last column, and then you want to throw in this div clear fix just to make sure it basically just clears out any floating so that the formatting stays pretty. So you can just go through these examples like this 4 column, for instance. We have grid 4 column, and then on the last column we toss in the last column class along with this clear fix div. And that's going to cover all of the page styles and things you can repeat throughout the theme.